The storm before Medina in the 5th year after Hijra. The situation of the Muslim community was more fragile than ever before. Islam had grown, but so had the hatred of those who feared its message. The Quraysh of Makkah had already suffered humiliation in previous encounters, and their desire for revenge burned stronger with each passing day. Meanwhile, expelled Jewish leaders from Medina traveled across Arabia spreading fear and falsehoods, urging tribes to unite against the Muslims. Their message was simple but dangerous. If Islam was not stopped now, it would soon dominate the entire region. Slowly, tribe after tribe joined this alliance, creating a massive force never seen before in Arab history. Medina, a small city with limited resources, now stood in the path of a powerful storm. News of this alliance reached the Muslims, bringing anxiety and uncertainty. Families feared for their survival, and warriors understood that this battle would decide everything. This was not just another conflict. It was a moment where the future of Islam itself seemed to hang by a thread. The greatest alliance against Islam. The enemies of Islam were confident, and for good reason. Nearly 10,000 fighters gathered under one banner, representing Quraysh, Ghatafan, and several other powerful tribes. Their weapons were strong, their numbers overwhelming, and their motivation fueled by years of hatred. Never before had the Muslims faced such a massive force. In contrast, the Muslims numbered only around 3,000, with limited arms and supplies. The imbalance was clear, and the threat was real. The enemy believed Medina would fall, easily, followed by the complete destruction of the Muslim community. They planned not just a victory, but total annihilation. Inside Medina, tension filled the air. Women, children, and the elderly feared what would happen if the city was breached. Hypocrites began to spread doubt, whispering that Allah's promises were false. Yet within this fear, there were also believers whose faith only grew stronger. They knew that this moment would separate truth from falsehood, sincerity from hypocrisy, and patience from panic. Leadership in consultation faced with the greatest threat of his life. Prophet Muhammad did not act with panic or pride. Instead, he turned to consultation, a principle deeply rooted in Islamic leadership. He gathered his companions and openly discussed the danger facing Medina. Every opinion was welcomed, showing that true leadership values wisdom wherever it comes from. It was during this consultation that Salman al-Farsi, a companion who had lived in Persia, presented a unique idea unfamiliar to the Arabs. He suggested digging a deep trench around the exposed sides of Medina to prevent the enemy from entering. This strategy was revolutionary in Arabia, where battles were fought openly in the desert. Without hesitation, the Prophet accepted the suggestion, proving that leadership is not about ego, but about truth and benefit. This moment showed how Islam values diversity, experience, and collective decision. It was here that hope began to rise, even though the danger had not yet passed. Digging the trench, the decision was made, but the task ahead was enormous. Muslims immediately began digging the trench, working day and night under harsh conditions. Hunger weakened their bodies, cold winds cut through their clothes, and fear weighed heavily on their hearts. Many companions tied stones to their stomachs to suppress hunger, yet they did not abandon their duty. Prophet Muhammad did not stand aside. He joined the labor himself, lifting soil, breaking rocks, and encouraging the believers with words of hope. When a massive rock blocked progress, and the companions felt helpless, the Prophet struck it, sparks flying with each blow, symbolizing future victories. These moments strengthened morale and reminded the Muslims that Allah's help was near. The trench was not just a physical barrier. It became a symbol of unity, sacrifice, and unbreakable faith. By the time the enemy arrived, Medina was ready in a way no one expected. The enemy arrives when the Allied forces finally reached Medina. They were stunned. Instead of an open battlefield, they found a deep trench blocking their advance. Their confidence quickly turned into frustration, as horses refused to cross and soldiers hesitated. 4 days, they attempted to find weaknesses, launching arrows and psychological attacks, but the trench held firm. Inside Medina, the pressure increased as food became scarce and fear grew. The hypocrites openly questioned the situation, mocking the believers and spreading despair. The Quran later described this moment vividly, when eyes were strained with fear and hearts reached the throat. Despite this, true believers stood firm, guarding the city day and night. The enemy had strength, But the Muslims had resilience. The trench had transformed the battlefield, turning the enemy's advantage into a weakness and prolonging a siege they never expected. Betrayal from within. As if the external threat was not enough, the Muslims faced danger from inside Medina. The Jewish tribe of Banu Qurayza, who had a treaty with the Muslims, broke their agreement and secretly aligned with the enemy. This betrayal shook the Muslims deeply, as it exposed their families to danger from behind. Panic spread, and the situation seemed hopeless. Prophet Muhammad responded with wisdom, sending companions to confirm the news and manage the crisis carefully. Even in this moment, he maintained calm and reliance on Allah. The believers were tested not only by enemies, but by fear, doubt, and exhaustion. This chapter of the battle revealed how trials often come in layers, pushing faith to its limits. Yet it was precisely this pressure that purified the hearts of believers and exposed those who only claimed faith with their tongues. Divine help when the situation reached its peak and hope seemed distant. Allah's help arrived in an unexpected form. A powerful windstorm struck the enemy camps during the night, uprooting tents, extinguishing fires, and spreading fear and confusion. Soldiers could not control their animals or protect their supplies. Panic replaced confidence, and leaders of the alliance realized they could not continue. Without engaging in a decisive battle, the massive army began to retreat. The Quran describes how Allah sent forces unseen, reminding believers that victory comes only from Him. What weapons could not achieve, faith and patience had accomplished. The Muslims witnessed firsthand that Allah's help arrives when human strength reaches its limit. The siege ended, and Medina was saved. Lessons that echo through time. Jahannam was more than a military event. It was a lesson written into history. It taught that numbers do not guarantee victory, and weakness does not mean defeat. Strategy must go hand in hand with trust in Allah, and patience must accompany effort. The battle exposed hypocrisy and strengthened true faith, separating those who trusted Allah from those who relied only on circumstances. It also marked a turning point, after which the enemies of Islam would never attack Medina with such force again. For Muslims today, this battle remains a reminder that trials are temporary, but faith has lasting power. When believers remain united, sincere, and patient, Allah opens doors that no army can break. They came to end Islam, but instead, their alliance collapsed while Islam continued to rise, closing as the dust settled and the enemy retreated. Jahannam came to an end without a decisive battle, yet its impact echoed far beyond the trenches of Medina. What appeared to be a moment of weakness became a powerful display of faith, wisdom, and divine support. This event proved that when believers stand firm, plan wisely, and place their complete trust in Allah, even the greatest threats lose their power. The alliance that came to erase Islam collapsed in fear, while the Muslim community emerged stronger and more united than before. Jahannam reminds us that trials are not signs of failure, but opportunities for growth and purification. When fear surrounds us and hope seems distant, Allah's help arrives in ways we cannot imagine. This battle teaches that patience in hardship, unity in crisis, and unwavering belief are the true keys to success. The enemies came with strength and numbers, but the believers stood with faith, and faith changed the course of history forever.